Welcome to the Hank Cisco Show. Today we have a special guest. I mean special because he works with special people, and anybody that works helping kids and helping students is a special person. And maybe we should have had this show on March the 17th on St. Patrick's Day, because we really have an Irishman with an Irishman name. I mean, 14-carat Irish name. His name is, and I'll introduce him like I do in Madison Square Garden. In this corner, Dr. Bill O'Flanagan, and he is president of Pathway School. Pathway School is located on Egypt Road in West Norton, and it's really a great school, and it's sort of special. And so it's I want to ask some questions and tell us something about the school, and also something about you first.
Good.
Now, you're originally from where?
I'm originally from Boston, Hank. I grew
You have a
up.
Boston accent?
I think I've lost that over the years, but my wife has a much stronger one. She's
Oh,
from
yeah?
the Boston area as well, but I occasionally slip into it.
Oh, yeah.
But I grew up in the Boston area. Went to Boston College as a day student, and I probably, because of that, had something to do with my career. If I hadn't been married in college and had 2 kids, I think I might have followed my dad's footsteps and gone to law school. Instead, I had the 2 kids while I was in college. He was the assistant DA in Boston for 51 years. But I had 2 kids, and I needed to work when I graduated from college, so I got a job in education in private schools. And over the years, I became more and more interested in special education, helping kids with special challenges be all that they could be, to paraphrase the Army recruitment.
When you said your dad was an assistant DA in
Yes.
Boston, well, I have a good friend of yours too. He was district attorney in Boston.
Right. Yeah.
Newman Flanagan.
Newman
And,
Flanagan.
he's a typical Irishman with Irish
Yeah.
humor. you
Yeah.
know.
Despite it being an elected office, the district attorney in Boston, my dad worked there for 51 years. There were only 3 district attorneys elected over that period of
With
time.
no crime in Boston then, I guess.
Well, there was plenty of crime, but they tried to keep it in
But they
check
kept
a
it
little
down,
bit.
you know.
Yeah.
Well, what's the history of the Pathway School? What's it about?
Well, Pathway School began about 42 years ago. Back in 1961, there were a group of people in the main line in Philadelphia, and Dr. Sheldon Rappaport led a group of people who had determined that not all kids could make it in the public schools. Some of them needed a little extra boost. In those early years, in the early 60s, and Pathway started in a church basement in Narberth, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah?
There, for the first couple of years, it was an intervention model that tried to help kids, give kids compensatory skills so they could go to the public or the private schools and be successful. It was an intervention school at the time. Relatively early on, there's a realtor. The school was looking for a permanent home, and a local realtor in the Norristown area found a property for us. There was a pediatrician out on Egypt Road in that big house that we call the White House. Dr. Roberts. Property was up for sale. Harry Butera, a well-known local realtor, brought the two together, Pathway School and this property.
Right.
And in addition to
No,
whatever...
he brought it together.
Yes.
Which Butera was that?
That was Harry Butera.
That's the father.
The father,
Yeah.
yes. Now, in addition to whatever commission was paid at the time, we put him on the board for 29 years, so that was part of,
Right.
wasn't part of the deal, but he was a wonderful community servant.
Oh,
And
yeah.
his son, Ken, has been the board chair for, I think 9 or 10 years now.
Well, I can tell you something about the Butera family. My mother and father from Italy, I couldn't speak English, and my mother was educated, but everything was Harry Butera. He could speak English and he could speak Italian, and anything, any kind of legal stuff, there was always Harry Butera. So he was sort of a god for looking over everybody
Right.
in Norristown.
Yeah.
Really, they couldn't speak, and he helped a lot of people that signing papers. There was properties in Italy, and they had somebody to
Yeah.
write letters back and forth. So he
Yeah.
was a big help. I mean,
Well,
really something.
he-
I'm surprised that Norristown don't have some kind of remembrance of the Butera.
Well, actually,
family.
we've just had a very successful capital and endowment campaign, and the Butera family, one of his sons, has been very generous.
Yeah,
So
Ken-
you come up.
Ken?
Well, Ken and Ken's brothers. The
Yeah,
whole
okay.
family has pulled together on this. So, Hank, we will invite you over to Pathway School within the next 6 months when we rededicate what we've called the White House over the years.
Oh yeah.
Is going to become Butera Hall,
Oh,
the
great.
administrative core of the school.
Well, I don't want to make this show the Butera, but
Well,
he was very
they-
helpful in our
he-
Columbus Monument in Norristown.
Right.
In the very beginning. See,
He's
so
a
so,
man
Well, all
who-
right. Now, how long you been president of Pathway School?
I've been at Pathway for 15 years.
15.
Yes.
Oh, that's 15. That's pretty
That's-
long.
That's pretty long. It's
Yeah, usually presidents they only last for 4 years and out.
well, luckily we don't have term limits over there, so
No.
I
Well,
think
and,
I'm good.
and it's still growing, and just like you're saying, you're adding on, and
Yes, we
you
have
just built another building here just not too long ago.
we built a couple buildings in the mid-90s, and we just completed a very successful campaign. We'll be breaking ground, hopefully, next September to build a life skills center for the kids
Oh,
with
okay.
kitchen areas and laundry areas so that we can help some of our students who need it become as independent as possible. That's part of our mission, to make the kids as independent, as socially competent, just good contributing citizens in society, and
You
they
know, I
all
like-
have that potential.
You know, I like to drop a name or so, but I remember Dr. Jim Holton, has been very
Right.
helpful. Now I hear about, he's always talking about you, In fact, he recommended that I contact you to interview because
Yeah.
there's a lot for people to get to know about Pathway School. And also, Dante Volpe, I know, was very helpful in
Right.
fundraising when you're building that last building that
Right.
you had there.
In the mid-90s, Dante Volpe was a wonderful chair for the campaign that helped us put up the gym.
Very civic-minded person, right?
A wonderful gentleman,
Right.
and you've mentioned another one, of course, too. Dr. Jim Holton is, I like to think of Jim as kind of a mentor, because
Oh,
he's
yeah,
had
yeah.
a wonderful career and continues
Well, his whole
in
life
schools.
has been working with the superintendent
Right.
of schools in New Jersey and Kenneth Square, and he's been around. There's nothing like street learn, and the old story: if you want to swim, you got to get in the water. Well, he's been in the water, swimming all the time. Now,
Yep.
now, how did you get involved with kids? I mean, you mentioned something, but what for 15 years dealing with this type of
Well,
wait a minute, let me ask you this now.
Sure.
What type of students does Pathway serve?
Okay, Pathway is an approved private school. In Pennsylvania, that's the type of school, and there are about 29 of them throughout the state, that are funded and called approved private schools. There's a line item in the governor's budget. That line item has been frozen for a couple of years, but we're
Gotta
working on...
loosen that up a little bit.
We've got to get some
Right,
more
right.
support if we're going to serve these kids. But these schools that I'm referring to, Hank, are the schools that deal with the most challenged kids in Pennsylvania, the most complex learning, physically challenged. Now, there are some schools, HMS School in Philadelphia deals with youngsters who have cerebral palsy and some really complex challenges, and they do, as all the schools do, a terrific job. Pathways enrollment are youngsters from 5 to 21 with
5 to 21.
right.
At that school?
Yes. Now, realistically, most of our kids are a little bit older than that. The population has aged up a little bit. But we serve youngsters with a variety of learning challenges and special needs, neurological impairment, some mild emotional challenges, kids with obsessive-compulsive disorder, pervasive developmental disorder, which is in the autistic spectrum, Asperger's syndrome, which is likewise in the autistic spectrum, but kids who have some really spiked skills. They can tell you, some of our youngsters are geography buffs and can tell you the state capitals of every state, but they need some support in other areas. That's one of the things that I think defines all kids, the youngsters who are here filming us and whatnot. Everybody has some gifts that they can share.
The talent
And,
right.
and it's our job at a school like Pathway to not only help shore up the weaknesses and give kids a boost in reading, math, employment skills, but also to let them shine, let them have their...
But kids come from all over.
From all
you have
over.
Students from
Right.
the other end of the country, no?
We do. We do. We have 175 students. Now, 125 of them are day students, so they come from the 5-county area. 52 youngsters come from 16 of the 21 school districts in Montgomery County.
Well, wait, did they live there?
Okay.
Did they sleep there?
125, Hank, are the day students. They come in by day. So
And then they go
that's,
home at
we've got
night.
the buses, yes. Now, there's another 53, 54 youngsters who are residential students. A few of
Why are
them,
they residential? Because they live far away, or because of special needs?
it's a bit of both.
Uh-huh.
It's a balance. The federal law, IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act, guarantees youngsters a free and appropriate education. Now, if that can be provided in the school district, that's obviously the best for the youngster and the family. In cases where it cannot be provided in the school district, the district is still responsible for finding a provider that meets the youngster's needs. So we have, at this point, more youngsters, residential youngsters from New York, New Jersey, and California than we do from Pennsylvania.
No kidding.
And part of that has to do with funding formulas and whatnot. We'd like to serve more youngsters in Pennsylvania, but the budget that is in the governor's line item at this point.
Well, we have to work on
doesn't-
that a little bit.
We need to work on that, and we need some
We'll have to
support.
work on that a little bit. Now, my future guests are going to be, we have Congressman Gerlach.
Great.
He wants to come on our show, and also State Senator Connie Williams, and she's all for. I just found out that her grandparents had a women's dress store on Main Street, Main and DeKalb Street, and my father had a
Great.
shoemaker store across the street, and I used to shine shoes there. So
Great.
I just had to. I can't wait to interview her
Right.
to talk about that. See?
Well, she's been out to visit Pathway, and she's aware. Connie Williams is a very knowledgeable
yes,
person.
She is.
So she's very aware of the funding crisis at the state level, and is a supporter of approved private
Well,
schools.
she said Senator Hall was very good
was-
man. I mean,
yes.
so he helped us with the Columbus Monument. He's one of the best. I mean, he's pretty hard to top.
Yes,
So when
he was a great
at
friend.
the last Columbus Day celebration we had at the park, Senator Hall told me, he says, "Look, Connie Williams is taking my. You stay close to her because she knows what she's doing. You know."
Yes.
And, so I passed that on to her. So and then I had an opportunity to meet her a couple times on a forum, and she is very knowledgeable.
Very knowledgeable.
And she has the enthusiasm. So maybe we can just pass the word on that education in Pennsylvania is needed. So.
It's needed, and it's a very hot issue
And
now.
also, we had the legislator Cahala, Jackie Cahala, and also John Fichter. See,
Right.
so they're all future guests that maybe I'll
And
remind them.
Jack-
Get some loot out there for the kids.
Jacqueline
for
Grajala
education.
was just out to the school a couple months ago, just after she won the election, and a neat woman, and she's going to be a quick study in terms of our needs and supporting the school that's in her district.
She's doing a real good job. What is now? You did mention something about the students and all, but what's so extra unique about Pathway? You'd say that.
Well, it's grown up over that time, from the time that Harry Butera brought us out to the West Norton area. A lot has changed in terms of the law and what Pathway had become. We were an intervention school back in the 60s. We've become more of a full-service school. In the mid-70s, we began granting high school diplomas. And the federal law, again, that I referred to earlier, Hank, guarantees each youngster a free and appropriate education through high school graduation or the year in which they celebrate
In other
their
words,
21st birthday.
They get a high school diploma when they graduate
Yes.
from there?
Yes. That diploma, in some cases, will come a little later chronologically,
Yeah.
but the youngsters can go to school there if they need to. If a youngster's
In other
ready
words,
to
it's special
graduate,
needs, right?
yes,
You're,
these
you're
are
dealing
all
with special
youngsters with
needs. It isn't
special
just
needs.
going to school and learning certain routine things. It's special needs
Right.
that the kid has, like the special needs, like.
Such as pervasive developmental disorder, Asperger's.
Now wait a minute, that's a big word now. You know, I.
Right,
You know, I'm a.
right. Um, these are youngsters who have maybe have had the onset of autism, which I won't go into it in great depth here, but there's been a great increase in the number of youngsters diagnosed with autism. There are a couple of pretty well-known fellows. Doug Flutie has done a lot of commercials and
Who's that?
whatnot. Doug Flutie, the fellow who threw the Hail Mary pass from Boston College.
Oh, okay.
His son has autism, so he's become very involved in
Involved in it, yeah.
helping it
Right,
be
right.
known more nationally. Oddly enough, circumstance, Dan Marino, the former quarterback of the Dolphins, likewise has a son with autism.
Oh, yeah?
It's a disability and a challenge that is much more likely to happen in young boys
Oh,
than
okay.
girls, and it's a real challenge. I have tremendous respect. We have some of the strongest families you'll ever want to meet, and siblings of youngsters who it really takes the whole family and a school community to help these youngsters become as independent and to achieve the things that they're capable of.
But now, for a school like this to function, you need state aid, right?
Yes, we do.
Is there excuse me, is there a slowdown or something? What's the problem?
Well-
Who do we talk to?
Okay.
You know, who do we talk? Talk to the governor? I call him up. You know, I remember he was a district attorney. Hello, Rendell. You know, come on, let's go.
Well,
Loosen up on that.
we're hoping the governor is supportive. He's obviously wants to be the educational governor for Pennsylvania. That's the message he's put out.
That's what he said.
In the budgeting process, he blue-lined the budget that he sent to the legislature. 90%, it was passed in toto, completely. But he blue-lined many of the education sections so that they will be debated in the House of Representatives and the Senate. We have suffered through minimal increases, and last year no increase, a 0% increase, despite the fact that we're educating the most complex and challenging kids in
Sure,
the Commonwealth.
the
The toughest kids. Just to give you a sense of it, in order to do the job we do, 175 students, Hank, we have over 200 staff members necessary to meet the needs of those kids. Residential day specialists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, reading specialists. We contract for physical therapy. It's a very complex team that has to come together if these youngsters are going to achieve to their full potential. And they are doing it. They're doing a wonderful job.
That's great, you know. But you know, your father being a former district attorney, and then suddenly you're dealing with school kids. What stimulated you to get involved here? You're 15 years working this type of job.
Two things, Hank, and I'm going to
What caused you to say, that's what I want to do?
I had the benefit of an inspiration, and that was my older sister, Kathleen O'Flanagan. Kathy died earlier this month. At age 61, she succumbed to cancer. But Kathy was a young woman who had cerebral palsy, had a hemispherectomy to control seizure activity when she was a teenager. And she went to, you talk about political correctness, the high school that she went to was the Industrial School for Crippled Children in Boston. But Kathy was somebody with a lot of hurdles in front of her. She cleared some of them, she knocked down the rest. But that, I didn't even realize it at the time, growing up in a family with somebody who had some challenges, but she's been the best teacher of my life. And she taught me that having some limits in one area, God gave you gifts in another area.
Right.
And she was one of the main inspirations of my life.
Yeah. I think it's almost like people like the job that you do, it's almost like a policeman's job or a school teacher, you know, that has to have that enthusiasm, has that desire, You know, who was it? Newt Rockney one time. They asked him, what do you look for in a football player? Do you look for a guy that's strong? Do you look for a guy that can pass? Can you looking for a guy that can run faster? He says, I look for a guy that has a desire, the desire to play. If he has a desire to play, I can make a great player out of him. So if you have the desire to do something, I think that's what I'd like to, that some kind of advice you would want to give maybe students that are now in this TV studio here is all man and woman are taking care of the cameras and the technical, you know, and they're following this profession. I hope maybe they'll be in Hollywood someday. So what kind of advice do you give now? You're a successful man in your your business.
I think you absolutely had it, and you and Newt Rockney, Hank, have it very well. Just put in a good effort all the time in whatever you do, and that can be work, and that can be play. If you're riding a bike, running a race, whatever you're doing, put in a good effort and look for something that gives something back to you, that you really enjoy. For whatever reason, the schools that I became involved in had served youngsters with more and more challenge, each successive school. And each time I was worried when I made that move, did I know enough about the needs these kids have to give back to them? And I probably didn't when I took the jobs, but I learned on the job. Kids can be the best teachers in a school. It isn't always one way that the teachers are teaching the kids. Good teaching and good administration has to be from people who are lifelong learners and who are learning lessons from the kids. We've had some inspirational teachers in our students over at Pathway. We have 30 young people going to graduate this year. They've taught me a great deal during their careers at Pathway. We've got a wonderful staff who likewise is energized and learns from the kids.
You know, you have to put something in it. It's almost like my years, I put 34 years in police work, 24 years with Northtown Police, and another 13 or 14 years with the district attorney's office as a county detective. And I worked most of my life as a policeman, dealing with kids. And I remember one-on-one, I became a good listener maybe after 10 years on the job. But the first 10 years was like, I'm a policeman, you know, and you have to listen, you know. You listen. Right. You learn more by listening because when you talk all the time, you already know that. But if you listen, you're learning.
Right.
You don't learn anything talking all the time, see. So I listen, you know. Whenever a kid would run away and he'd say, I don't like my mom, I don't like my dad, or something, I don't want to go home and all. So I said, well, you know, I just talk nice and soft, keep my voice down. And I said, well, you know, if you don't want to go back to your mother, you don't hate your mother and your father. I said, well, look, maybe you sign a paper here, right here, this paper, and then you will never see your mother and father. Now, all you got to do is sign it, and the next thing you know, you see tears coming out of their eyes when they hear that they're not going to see their mother. So it's a little techniques or so that you use to help people, different ways. And I applaud people that do a job working with people that need extra help.
Well, I accept that, Hank, but I don't accept it personally. I accept it on behalf of over 200 staff members. We have some wonderful people all the way.
You got to surround yourself with good people, you know.
And we have some people that go back and have served Pathway School for over 30 years. Likewise, we've got a mix of young 20-something, very eager, very energetic young staff. And it's that mix back and forth, as well as great students. And we have some wonderful kids that perform tremendous amounts of community service. That's one of the specialties at Pathway.
That's important.
We have had a history of, over the years, doing as much community service, I would say, as any school within your listening area. And it's great for our kids to know that they're valued. They have gifts that they can contribute to their community and to their state.
But you know, what kind of fundraising do you do? I know you have a lot of activities every once in a while. I read in the paper. I know Jim Holton tells me he's going to some golf out or something.
Yes.
So tell me some of your fundraising.
Well, the next
activities.
major fundraiser that we have coming up is the the 7th annual Pathway Golf Outing. It'll be September 29th, and
What was that date?
September 29th.
Yeah.
And we have some sponsorship opportunities. Nicole Jones is a young woman over at Pathway, is our advancement coordinator. And if anybody has any interest in that, we'd love to have your support. And you can get in touch with Nicole at the Pathway School.
Can people come and visit?
They're very welcome to come and visit.
How do you, people want to get to know what it's all about, and maybe they want to stop in or so, or
They're welcome to stop in and just see somebody at come to the White House. Again, school security, as everywhere.
Right, naturally.
We need to make sure that people go through the right routine, but we're very happy to share our story. And I think we're very well known in the community. The Chamber of Commerce, Kathy Brandon and all the people involved in the Chamber, Dan Reevy with Comcast, a number of people have been real strong supporters over time. And I don't know that we could do the job that we do without the community support that
I remember one lady, Mrs. Domino, used to work as a secretary for many years at Pathway School.
Yes.
Yeah, right. I like to drop a name, bring back somebody. But I just talking about awards, but here's something here. As a young fellow receiving an award, tell me something about that.
Okay, this is the Hitachi Foundation Award, and a young man who taught me a lot at Pathway about community service, Patrick Sykes, graduated from Pathway in 95 or 96, back then. Pat was one of the leaders with some great staff members, Ann Dolan French and Michelle Ioli Trusty, who formed a community service club at Pathway. Pat was one of 10 youngsters in the country, high school kids in the country, who were recognized as the outstanding community service provider in their entire region.
Well, he was a community, what did he do like this?
If you remember, does the name Trevor Farrell ring a bell?
What is it?
Trevor Farrell, Trevor's Place in Philadelphia. This was a young man who heard about homelessness and decided he wanted to do something about it.
Oh, I think I'd read something on that.
Pat had a very similar story. He looked at the evening news, he saw about homelessness, and the next thing you know, he had a blanket, a jacket, and a bunch of sandwiches. He wanted to ride down to Philadelphia to help some people out.
I saw that.
So this is a young man who did similar things, not in the spotlight, but he redefined himself from a very challenging, very, he had a tough upbringing, Hank, probably as tough as any of the kids you dealt with in the DA's office or whatnot.
I dealt with two type of kids when I was a police officer.
Right.
The honor students, There was
Right.
an honor student, and then the other one was the yes, your honor, no, your honor. Two different kind of honor students,
Right.
But
But this was a young guy.
I had to get that in there.
Good. This was a young guy who helped redefine himself, helped change his whole life by helping others. And just last year, he was our graduation speaker. Each year, we have a graduation speaker, and we renamed the Community Service Award in honor of Pat Sykes. He's a fine young man.
Well, that's good when you can look back on it. It's been a pleasure hearing, what goes on at Pathway School, because I used to go to juvenile hall there, and I'd go by there in the Pathway School, but I'd never been in there. I'd see the students and all, but now that I have an invite, I'm gonna stop in, and I'm very happy that you able to find time to come here, and I like that necktie,
Right.
Get a close up on that necktie there, and with the kids playing there,
Yep.
it's a
These
real
are-
patriotic.
It's Save the Children Foundation. I've got a bunch of these ties
Right.
that the kids really like.
So I'm really happy that you're able to share your experiences and your life with us today. And I want to thank everyone for inviting us into your living room or kitchen or wherever you have your TV set. And I want to thank the staff here at Norristown High School for the job. And I think they had enough pizza for everybody. We get them started in the morning with some pizza, and that keeps them in shape and keep them cameras rolling. So thank you, and God bless you.